Whether you just need a refresher or you're trying to prepare yourself for the second season, here's everything you need to know about Dr. Stone Season 1. Welcome back to the Anime Tea, everyone. My name is Phoenix, and today we're going to be recapping Season 1 of Dr. Stone just before the second season comes out, which premieres on January 14th, 2021, all in 15 minutes or less. As always, because this is a recap video, there's definitely going to be spoilers for all of the Season 1 of Dr. Stone. However, we will not be going over any manga spoilers. Let's start with part 1 of Season 1, which is the first 12 episodes. Starting with episode 1, we are introduced to Senku, who is a genius prodigy child. You can tell he's a main character, like, you know, he's got that hair, that anime main character hair, that also makes him look like Einstein plus a piece of celery combined together. Anyway, we're introduced to him and his friend Taiju. Taiju's about to go confess his feelings to the girl he's loved his entire life. And just as Taiju's about to confess his feelings for Yuzurihara, a bright light flashes in the distance and everything turns to stone. We get to see the entire world literally petrifying and turning to stone. Everything's in chaos, planes are crashing, cars are running into each other. And then we get a quick fast forward 3,000 years into the future, where we see Taiju get reawakened from his petrified state, and Senku there standing over him saying like, oh, I knew you'd survive because you're an idiot. Not really because they were an idiot, but because he had such a strong focus to tell Yuzurihara his feelings. Senku had a feeling that he would be able to survive and be all right. Senku tells Taiju that he's been working on a formula to try to de-petrify people. And of course he chose to reawaken Taiju first because that's his friend, you know, that's his homie. Senku's been working alone for a few months and he's finally asked Taiju he needed someone who was strong enough to help him carry materials. And over the next 6 months, they work together to fully develop this formula, which is made out of bat guano, which is basically bat poop, and nitol, which is in wine, which they have to make using grapes. They make that, they test it on a bird, and it works. Senku's main goal is just to basically save all of humanity through science. As they're determining who they should revitalize next, they get attacked by lions, and they run into the statue of a popular, kind of famous high school kid, nicknamed the Primate High Schooler, named Tsukasa. They use it on him, he gets freed, he bodies the lion, and the lions run away. It's the most anime thing ever. So the three of them team up, and I get a small montage of them like doing stuff, trying to determine what their next steps will be to revitalize all of humanity. We get a quick clip of Senku, you know, using his science to make soap out of stone, and Taiju nicknames him Dr. Stone, and that is the entire title of the show. Taiju and Tsukasa are on the beach looking for shells. He punches the head off one of these stone people on the beach who was an older man, and he explains that adults suck and he doesn't want to revitalize a world where adults live in it. He believes that the world should belong to the young people. And Senku's like, oh heck no, I want to save all the people who are going to revitalize all of humanity because that's the right thing to do. We are not going to basically kill people because when you break someone apart, they're dead. So now Senku and Taiju try to come up with a plan to try to ditch Tsukasa because they're like, oh shoot, we have reawoken the wrong one. Senku and Taiju go revive Yuzurihara. Yeah, and if you remember, Yuzurihara is Taiju's crush. But Tsukasa returns kind of early, sees what they're doing, and Taiju tries to stand up to fight against him. Tsukasa like hits him. Taiju's still standing somehow, but he eventually KOs. And yeah, Senku, Yuzurihara, and Taiju are able to escape somehow. They end up escaping into like the mountains near a hot spring. And Senku uses some of the natural elements from the hot spring to try to recreate gunpowder. Do not try these at home. While they're relaxing in the bath, because you know it's his first bath they've probably had since they've reawoken, which is pretty gross, Yuzurihara asks him what he was going to say to her on the day before everything got petrified. I would want to know too, because you know I've been waiting 3,000 years for you to say whatever the heck you had to say. It seemed really important. But he says that he's going to leave it until after they've revitalized all of humanity. So it's going to be a while before we see that scene that the first episode started with. Anyway, while Senku's making gunpowder, he needs to create a fire, and the fire makes smoke. The three worry that the smoke will reveal their location to Tsukasa. However, when they look around, they also see another smokestack going on, and they're not sure if it's Tsukasa or other people because it's in a different direction than where they left Tsukasa at. which could be a potential ally to them, or it could be like an even bigger threat. But Senku decides to hope for the best and keep his smoke signal up. Tsukasa actually does find them. Tsukasa grabs Yuzurihara and uses her as a hostage to try to get Senku to give him the formula. Senku's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Tsukasa's like, you think I'm playing? And then he cuts her hair. Anyway, Yuzurihara doesn't play that either because she literally takes the knife to her own neck and is like, do not freaking give him the formula. I will kill myself before you give it to him. It is literally humanity's like last hope. Tsukasa's like, you actually do care about these people. You have friends. That makes you weak. And I'm about to exploit that weakness. He decides to give Tsukasa the formula, but unfortunately, Tsukasa's like, why would you give me the one thing that I'm keeping you alive for? You let your emotions like get the best of you. And then he snaps his neck. And in the first half of the season, Senku is dead. What's up with all these characters dying in the first half of seasons? Like, I don't understand. But luckily, Senku's been dropping subtle hints throughout his time with Taiju. He would rub the back of his neck a lot and like crack it and like bring attention to it really subtly. And Taiju remembers this and he looks at the back of his neck. Part of his neck is still petrified. Like if it's taken off, it could be healed. So apparently how the petrification works, it heals people. If someone has an injury before they get petrified, after they get petrified, and once they get depetrified again, the injury goes away. All while they're doing that, we get to see Senku's backstory of how he reawoken by himself, him struggling to survive and like using all of his brain and wits and the idea of science and trying things over and over again to survive, all leading up to how he saved Taiju. And that all leads to Taiju and Yuzurihara reviving Senku. He's alive. Senku asks Taiju and Yuzurihara to go spy on Tsukasa. Since Tsukasa thinks that Senku is dead, they shouldn't be in any danger, to see what he might be planning. And Senku decides to go just off on his own to try to figure out a way to combat Tsukasa, as well as a way to just revive more people. But we may see them together again. We'll see. Yeah, anyway, as soon as Senku leaves, he runs into a mysterious girl. And before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys to like, comment, and subscribe to The Anime Tea. There are new episodes out every Wednesday and Saturday. You just want to see new videos, make sure to turn on the bell for notifications so you never miss one. Let's move on to the second part. So before Senku runs into her, we meet a girl named Kohaku who is fighting Tsukasa, but Tsukasa is able to like trip her up and get her caught under a tree. Senku walks by, finds Kohaku, and devises a plan to save her using science, of course. Kohaku's like, cool, this is amazing, like what kind of sorcery is this? And we end up finding out that she's actually a native person, and she takes Senku back to her village, which ends up being an entire small civilization of people who are native there and who have never been petrified. And there we're introduced to a slew of new characters. Most importantly is Chrome. He has been dubbed the sorcerer of the village because he's been gathering a bunch of materials and items to try to basically to help save the village priestess, whose name is Ruri, and Ruri is Kohaku's sister, older sister, who is sick. And Chrome and Senku click on like immediately because, you know, we got two scientists. They kind of have a little battle where they determine who's the better sorcerer or scientist. Of course, Senku wins, gains Chrome's trust, and Senku decides that with the help of Chrome, they can build a kingdom of science, which will basically help them revitalize all of humanity by doing experiments. Senku has Chrome's trust, he has Kohaku's trust because he saved her, but he needs the entire village's trust, not only to try to help revitalize humanity, but also for the possibility that Tsukasa is going to come and attack. So he wants to also protect them, and he needs to get on their good side. So he devises a plan to help the village priestess Ruri overcome her sickness. And he plans to do that by creating an antibiotic. Now, this is another thing that children should not make at home because the ingredients in this antibiotic are insane. They go on various like mini missions to acquire materials to create the antibiotic and get the ingredients to create it. Along the way, Senku meets many of the other villagers like Suika, our adorable little watermelon head, as well as Kinro and Ginro, who are the guards of the gates to the village. Another character arrives at the village. He is not a villager. His name is Gen, and he comes to the village looking for Senku, basically, and they'd find out that he's actually a spy for Tsukasa. However, after Gen meets Senku, he's kind of inspired by him and like what he's able to create. Senku has made food for some of the people to get on their good side. He's made ramen, and he gets on Gen's good side. So Gen goes back and kind of lies to Tsukasa, which gets him beat up by Tsukasa's goons that he's revived, that he's been reviving on his own with the formula that Senku gave him. Senku, Chrome, and Kohaku and them, they save Gen and like nurse him back to health, and Gen tells them that Tsukasa's planning on starting a war. So Senku's like, crap, we gotta hurry up and finish this antibiotic so that we can get the villagers' trust and try to fight against these people. The only way that they can give Ruri the medicine is if they enter into the grand bout, which is a competition to see who's going to basically marry Ruri. So all of them enter. Ginro is actually one of the strongest fighters besides Kohaku, so he fights. He can't see very well. Him and Suika have like very poor eyesight, and Senku actually made eyeglasses for Suika in her little watermelon thing so that she can see better, and they end up like throwing that onto Ginro's head mid-battle, and he's able to see and like actually win the fight. However, the last two people who are in the fight are actually Senku and Ginro, and Senku is able to beat Ginro somehow, even though they're both very, very weak, and Senku is way weaker. But he's able to win, so that means he's technically married to Ruri, but he doesn't really care about that. He just goes and gives her the antibiotic, and everyone's stressed out about it because they're like, who's this weird person giving, you know, the village priestess possibly toxic medicine thing? But it ends up helping her out. She gets better. Ruri tells Senku the name of the village is actually Ishigami, which is Senku's last name, and that's because Senku's father, many, many years ago, started Ishigami Village. And from there, we get a backstory on Senku's dad. His name is Byakuya. He became astronaut with the help of Senku. Before the world was turned to stone, he was up in space with other astronauts, and they watched the entire world get petrified. And then they came down and kind of restarted humanity. They restarted families, and yeah, and that's how Ishigami Village came to be. But as they learn all that, Tsukasa's people begin to attack the village right as Senku has gained the trust of the village and learned all of this history about it. They're able to throw them off with gunpowder and like the fighting power of their main fighters like Kohaku and the people in the Grand Bout and Ginro. We get to see new characters that are working with Tsukasa. I think his name is Hyoga, and another girl with pink hair that looks like cotton candy. I can't remember her name. And Tsukasa's army retreats to go and try to prepare for like a full-on war. So Senku's like, in order to prepare for full-on war, the one thing that we need to make, cell phones, which everyone is freaking out about because like Gen is like, well, how are cell phones going to do anything? Like it's the Stone Age. How are we going to even make them? Because like the most important thing in a battle is communication, and they have people on the other side, Taiju and Mizurihara, who are working, and if they're able to get in contact with them, they can use the information from the inside to win the war. The last part of Dr. Stone Season 1 is them finding the materials that they need to create the cell phone. That's where it leaves off, leaving a ton of questions for the next season to come, as well as the upcoming battle that is to ensue. When new people might be revitalized, what more shenanigans will ensue. It's just an all over good time that I'm looking forward to. And if you're looking forward to it too, please let me know in the comments how you felt about season 1 and what you're excited for season 2, what characters you're excited to see return. If you want more recap videos, I just did one for The Promised Neverland. Make sure to subscribe to the MAT if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.